Good morning and welcome to another edition of Bold Business, the show about millennial economic empowerment. I'm your host, David Grasso, and I work for GenFKD, a nonprofit that helps young people get the skills they need to succeed. I'm joined by none other than Selena Hill, the digital editor at Black Enterprise, and she's here to spice things up and get this conversation going. Welcome, Selena.
Thank you.
Absolutely. If you're familiar with the show, we always start with headlines. To help discuss this week's headlines, we're joined by Vang and Terzel Vasquez. They're both journalists for GenFKD.org. Welcome, folks. How you both doing?
Great. Nice to be here.
Awake? You ready to get started?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, let's jump right into it. Our first headline comes to us from circa.com and is about Mr. Trash Wheel, a floating windmill-sized metal water wheel that collects trash from the Baltimore harbor. Invented by John Kellett, the solar-powered structure funnels garbage onto a conveyor belt and then into a dumpster. Today, Mr. Trash Wheel has removed more than 1 million pounds of garbage. When the bins fill up with trash, the garbage is taken to an incinerator where it is used to power homes in the area. Of course, Mr. Trash Wheel's journey from concept to a real deal solution for trash removal has created interest from cities around the world struggling to remove garbage from the waterways. So, Terzel, what do you think about Mr. Trash Wheel over in Baltimore?
I think it's a great idea. Actually, since its implementation, 80 other countries have contacted the inventor of Mr. Trash Wheel to, sort of implement it in their regions as well, which means that it's very impactful. Since the summer of 2014, 1.3 million pounds of debris and trash has been transported and directed away from the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay using this invention. So it's very important and very intuitive, honestly, to have this in the 21st century.
How about you, B?
Well, it says a lot about this kind of time that we live in of induced anxiety, especially with the great fears and any kinds of science fiction that is out there right now about how technology is going to render jobs and industrial jobs and wages kind of obsolete, and what that's going to do to the.
So Mr. Trash Wheel took someone's job, B?
Well, potentially, that's the fair, with robots and technology taking over.
Absolutely. How about you, Selena? Are you surprised by Mr. Trash Wheel over here?
No, not at all. And I think they both made really good points. I love the fact that Mr. Trash Wheel actually uses solar power energy, and it relies on natural resources to clean up the waterways. So I think it's 100%. I think it's an excellent idea. I'm behind it 100%.
Well, anyway, moving on from Mr. Trash Wheel, our next headline is from Bloomberg and is about how a high credit score is more important than being cute in the dating world. According to a new study by Discover Financial Services and Match Media Group, the parent company of many dating sites, including Tinder, a good credit score is more important for a potential mate than many attributes, including financial responsibility, a sense of humor, attractiveness, ambition, courage, and modesty. Match's chief scientific advisor went as far as labeling your credit score as a Darwinian mechanism for measuring your reproductive ability. So my question to the panel, those are pretty heavy words. Do you agree or disagree? Terzel?
I don't agree on a moral sense. In terms of practicality, I agree. It's very important to be aware of someone's financial stability before you get into a long-term commitment with them. And I feel like, it's only necessary for a person to know that.
So credit score, big deal for you or not a big deal?
Credit score is not a big deal for me personally because I'm, very young and it's not important to me as much as someone who's in their 40s or 50s. However, it's very important to be aware of someone's financial status, knowing if they can even take you out on dates. If they can't do that, then you probably shouldn't be in a relationship with them.
Okay, B, make it or break it, credit score.
Well, it speaks volume about how technology is distorting our perception of our reality and of our social and cultural norms. The fact is people are getting reduced to a list of attributes, one of them being credit score and one of them being even educational attainment. And it's just really about how human beings are becoming subordinated by technology.
So does your credit score determine someone's worthiness for dating, B? In your world?
Me? No, of course not. I think it has a lot to do with, connecting on an emotional level, and yeah, does that matter anymore these days?
I don't know, Selena, does that matter?
Look, I'm presuming you gentlemen are still in your early 20s. When I was in my early 20s, around your age, yeah, being a good human being mattered a lot more. But a good credit score is indicative of financial responsibility, how responsible you are. It says a lot about your character, and it just goes much further. And I think that now that I'm in my late 20s, approaching 30, of course, this is something that is make or break because it speaks volumes about your money history, your financial literacy, and your future goals. I mean, you cannot even get a loan to buy a house if you don't have a good credit score. And that's where I'm at in my life. So, of course.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this article and this study were pretty shocking. They were pretty much saying that, people who have good credit scores are generally good people as well.
Yes.
Of course, I think there's a lot of exclusions to that. I know a lot of people with good credit scores who are actually terrible people.
Oh, wow.
So it's not exactly, everything, but, it does count for something, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Push back against Selena. Tell me, guys. Tell him. Is it really that you guys said it wasn't important? Selena said, I'm in my late 20s. My biological clock is ticking. I need good credit. How about you guys?
I couldn't even date someone who didn't think it was important. So, just to take it a step further.
Here's the interesting part. In the survey, it said that, credit score is also an indication of responsibility.
Yes.
People who have higher credit scores tend to be more physically fit and tend to have very...
They got it all, huh?
Yeah, they tend to have balance in other areas of their life as well. So they tend to have it, well-rounded package. So definitely, if you look at someone's credit score, you can tell if they're a good mate on multiple levels.
Okay, our third headline is from Fortune and is about Walmart and Amazon's flying warehouses. That's right, both retailers are working on concepts for a floating warehouse that would potentially make deliveries with drones and move around to service different areas. Walmart is playing catch up with Amazon, having filed for a U.S. patent for this concept this week. Amazon was granted a patent for a similar concept last year. The war between these retailers is heating up since Amazon announced its purchase of Whole Foods and is creeping into the physical retail market. Similarly, Walmart's purchase of online giant Jet.com means that the two behemoths are certainly on a collision course. So what do you guys think? Floating warehouses? We're running out of time here, but pretty interesting concept. Terzel.
It's very interesting concept. However, we can't have two mega industries piggybanking off of one another, in the years to come. It's very important to have intuition and to, be innovative on your own terms. Walmart has been piggybanking off of Amazon for a long time now with patented goods, in terms of opening physical stores and things of that sort. In 2014, they actually filed patent to have drones inside of the store. That's something that is it's good on paper, but in implementation it might be a little different.
How about you, B?
This is a pretty interesting tale about how many industries are undergoing so many disruptions because of technology. And I think it's great that Walmart is able to do this because it's sort of not allowing Amazon to sort of monopolize all industries and sort of control everything from retail to e-commerce.
How about you, Selena, quickly?
Using drones is a great solution to avoid city traffic. So I think that flying in the air to deliver packages, maybe we'll get them quicker. Never know.
Absolutely. Terzel, Vasquez, and B. Vang, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. So next, we'd like to welcome Dom Marcell. After working on Wall Street, he decided to pursue a full-time career in music. He's since added singer, songwriter, actor, dancer, and screenwriter to his resume. Now he's here to talk about his journey from Wall Street to Hollywood. Now, we would like to welcome Dom himself. Welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Hey. So, welcome to the show. So you were working for a while on Wall Street,
Correct.
And now you decided to leave stability alone and to pursue music. Why?
Well, because it was just a passion of mine for years. So when I was a little kid, I used to perform throughout childhood, theater productions. I did a bunch of stuff at church as well. And then I did it concurrent to my undergraduate studies as well. So
And where'd you go to school?
USC. Fight on, baby. Fight on, Trojans.
So you had that Tinseltown in your head, spending all that time in LA, huh?
Yes. So it didn't happen for me at the time, but so I went to corporate America. So I did everything, I took all the necessary steps to take my career to the next level in the finance world. But something just told me my passion is just so alive inside of me. I just had to go back to it.
But a lot of people would kill for one of those corporate jobs.
Seriously.
So what do you say?
I'm still convince me.
Well, so the thing is, I didn't just off the whim just say, I'm going to be a singer. I actually thought about it for months. And since I have a background in law, because I went to Northwestern, I have a law degree as well as a master's in business administration. I thought about it methodically, and I thought about it for at least 6 to 7 months before I decided to invest in it, monetarily speaking. So I wrote a song, DTK, in February 2016.
Well, we have a clip of that. Can we look at that 1 second?
Let's take it. Roll it.
Just drop that kitty, baby. When the beat drops and melody rolls, the music flows through your soul. The rhythm got you feeling good. Can't even speak if I could. Makes you lose control. Come on and let's roll. Every time that I see you put that thing on me, and every time you dirty fight, I come back up behind. You left and right, back and forth, move it over my way. Up in advance every day when you drive that kitty for me.
Oh, okay. That's DTK.
A big departure from Wall Street banking, huh?
It's just a natural progression. I mean, I'm building financial models, and then I build a music video. It's just natural. It's just
So DTK stands for Drop That Kitty.
correct.
So what is the song about?
Let's keep it PG-13 here.
Well, do you have a cat or kitten?
No, I actually don't have any animals.
We're not a lot of cat people on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some in the
Clearly
back
dog
right now.
personality.
Sorry to those.
No, I don't.
No kids, no kittens.
What's the correlation here?
I'm just kidding. So it's really just basically saying to your partner, let's have a good time. Just giving the partner all the attention. So
He's asking you a lot of questions. You might want to check his credit score to see if he's dateable.
know where this is going. Okay, so you have this hit single, DTK. You're getting some publicity now, media rounds. Was the transition from Wall Street to Hollywood worth it?
absolutely. Because I feel like it's interesting. A lot of people hit me up on LinkedIn, a lot of professionals. Oh my God, Dom, I always want to be a dancer. And this is like an attorney talking to me. I was like, oh my God, you could.
All of us have secret dreams, Dom.
Yeah.
All of us.
Well, not all of us pursue them.
As many of us as have credit scores have secret dreams. I'm sure Selena has one about tap dancing or moonlighting on Broadway that we don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I danced in college.
Yeah, I honestly feel that it's important as professionals to maintain that artistic, creative freedom. Because life should not be all about just working a 9 to 5 or in my case, 9 to 3 in the morning. It should be about having that balance. And I think it's important to actually have that balance to maintain a healthy mentally as well as just, with your family and friends as well.
So you left the lucrative industry. You're now a full-time musician. What's next for Mr. Dom?
Correct. A lot more videos. I'm shooting more videos, more interviews. You'll see me on television as well. So just, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Well, here's an important question. What advice would you give a working professional that has an extremely stable career in corporate America about transitioning into entrepreneurship or maybe music? What advice, really quickly?
You really have to think about it like a business, because I think about music like a startup company. You have to do a lot of planning, a lot of feasibility
So
analysis.
you are the startup. You ultimately are the
I'm
product.
brand,
Yeah.
the product. My musics are products as well. So you have to do a lot of thought process behind it, a lot of business planning, marketing strategy, branding, all that stuff to actually launch it effectively. It increases your chances of success.
Very important. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dom, for stopping by. We appreciate that.
All right.
And guys, make sure you check out the video too.
Absolutely. DTK by Dom Marcell. Up next, we have Bruce Tedesco. He's the founder and chief science officer of BGT Data Science. He's here to talk about big data, something that's always of interest to us here on Bold Business. His company uses big data to provide strategic insights for many fields, including marketing. Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks.
Welcome.
A little bit of a departure from musician to big data.
I don't mind that at all. I actually started as a musician.
Oh, here we go
Really?
full circle then.
Absolutely. Yep.
So big data is everywhere.
It is.
It's everywhere. I mean, I imagine he's even doing his studies with big data to see what the audience wants.
Can't get away from it.
So what does big data tell us? For people who don't have any idea, we hear that as a buzzword thrown around a lot. What does it mean?
It means that we can gather information about everything that's going on, regardless of the industry that you're in. So right now, we're able to transition to using AI on big data. So two buzzwords.
So artificial intelligence processes big data.
Correct.
Wow.
That's really the crux. And now we're able to use artificial intelligence to degrees that we were unable to reach even 5 years ago. So whether we're dealing with clients that are in entertainment or finance or tech or defense, we're moving forward. And my job and my hopeful role for everyone is to make this friendly. It's not something that we need to be afraid of. It's something that we can embrace.
Well, how about all these people? You know, you have all this information on us. You know, you have a psychometric profile. You know exactly what I like, what makes me tick. What do you say to people who are bothered by that?
I'm bothered by that. The good news is, in a group, in a segment, yes, a company can do just that. But for someone to find David's exactly what makes you tick, or Bruce's what my favorite cereal is in the morning, is too much trouble. No firm is going to do that.
Okay, that's good news.
Relax into that.
Well, why would you say, Bruce, it's so important for companies to utilize data in their business model?
I think because it gives them something from which to make decisions that are really based on fact. At the heart, I'm a scientist, and we want to remember that science is really a dispassionate observer. So, because I started in the movie business, it was tough to walk into a producer's office and say, I really think the title of this movie ought to be such and thus. Well, they know better. And even today, you walk into any of the service industries or industry at all, and executives and those that are in the industries will say, but our experience says such and thus. As a scientist, I want to say, but the data tells us. The data is able to show us. The data has been there, and we know something.
I feel like you blame a lot on the data, though. Do you use the data to kind of excuse whatever?
Scapegoat.
I mean, can't the data tell us a lot of things? I feel like statistics. Have you ever heard the term, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics?
Sure.
I feel like data can kind of be in that same boat. People kind of use data to kind of move the ship in the direction in which they choose.
Couldn't agree more, which is why, at the heart of the matter, I'm a scientist. And a scientist doesn't do that. And if we can make science friendly, if we can make everyone understand that science is this dispassionate analysis of the data, in the end, the data only really does say one thing. Now, you can do a lot of interpretation, but in the end, it says one thing.
Well, once we have that data, what's the next step? How can companies use that or capitalize from it?
I think in a number of areas. Helps with new products. When something is getting stale, the data knows before we do. I read something today that your car is nowhere worth what you think it is. Well, I didn't think it was worth anything to begin with. It was a pretty nice car when it was bought a couple of years ago.
And now it's worth, you know.
Nothing's not worth it. I should just give it away. But so data can help with new products, can help with new directions. It can help find a match between some segment of people and another segment of people for something that a firm wants to offer. So from that aspect, it enriches our lives. It gives us more to do, more that we can benefit from the world.
Oh my God, what the heck is going on there?
nice.
Yeah.
Goodness, I don't know why we should put up something like that.
That's some of the stuff you scribble in your office during your free time, don't you?
That's just it. Because you started with big data, which is perfect. We go to deep learning and AI, and so what we're scribbling in the office is looking at a human brain. We've really got 100 billion neurons up there. We use that depiction, but 100 billion is a really big number. We're not going to be able to process all of that. So the scribblings show that there are mathematical ways to put together relationships that represent the data that's in our mind. So we're never going to build an artificial brain, but we're going to get close to some of the ways some parts of the brain can work. And that's what science brings us, that's what AI brings us, that's what big data will provide for us. So there really is a little bit all over the place, but there really is a cohesiveness.
Bruce, one last question. A lot of people are afraid of AI. They're afraid of artificial intelligence. Elon Musk came out and said, we should be afraid of artificial intelligence. Are you afraid of artificial intelligence?
Not at all.
Not at all? The robots aren't going to take over like the Terminator?
I don't think they want to.
Oh, they don't want to? These are benevolent robots?
No, they just have something else to do. If they get that really smart, then I don't know that they want our cities and our...
It's not like robot leadership
Right, like iRobot. Right, yeah.
But there is, in addition to AI, there's also augmented intelligence. So there's artificial intelligence and there's augmented intelligence.
And that's intelligence that we put on ourselves, right? Yes.
That's right. Yes.
Very, very interesting. Well, thank you so much, Bruce. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Next, we'd like to welcome Eleni Mitzali to the show. She's the editor of Babe, a website that emphasizes good news reporting, trash trends, and personal stories, as well as the pettiest celebrity drama. Welcome, Eleni.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell us more about Babe. I was reading that you guys started this website as a social experiment a few years ago, and now you're up to 3 million readers a month. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is. We started last May, and it was a group of us in the office, and we just didn't really identify with any other women's site out there. So we just wanted to create a site where we would publish stories and videos that we related to. And it just sort of really took off from there. And a year later, we are averaging 3 to 5 million readers and like 50 million video views a month. So it's really going places.
That's insane.
Wow. Yeah, that is.
People
That's
always
awesome.
say the media landscape is so saturated, but here you come and you found yourself a great viewership. How'd you do it?
I think that's the thing is all the other women's sites, I don't think they really know their readers, whereas what we try and do is everything we put out is directly something that we would want to read. So that's why I think it totally relates to our readers, whereas I don't think a lot of women's sites out there do that. They don't think of their readers.
How would you describe your demographic?
It is 18 to 24 females, and over 50% of our audience is actually that right now, whereas other women's sites barely have over 20% in that segment.
And what's the racial makeup?
In like our audience?
Oh, yeah.
It is broad. Like we try and touch upon loads and loads of topics, and what we try and do, whatever we cover, is we try and just make it super, super distinct and like try and find the different angle into everything.
And you spent some time in the UK. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and your accent kind of gives it away a little bit.
I studied there.
Yeah. So do you have a big audience over there as well?
We do. It is more, right now we are like 70% US, but over the past year it's kind of fluctuated because we have published stories that were targeted towards a UK audience, but right now we are really focused on the US.
Absolutely. So what goals and objectives have you set for yourself with Babe, the website?
So in terms of numbers, in the next year we want to go from 3 to 5 million where we are now to 10. But overall, we just want to be the biggest influential source for young women out there.
Who are your competitors?
I don't really think of anyone as like direct competitors because we are doing things so different, but other women's sites like Bustle or Refinery 29, Teen Vogue, they're obviously trying to attract those readers too. So I would say
from an advertiser's point of view, that's a very rich demographic, isn't it? That's a demographic that everyone's mystified about reaching, 18 to 24.
It really is, which is why we've had people approach us, and we're going to start working with people in the next couple months, and because we really know that demographic and we know how to reach them and we know how to make videos and produce content that they want to read or watch.
We've had journalists who've worked for sites or founded sites and then sold it for $50 million. We had the owner of Elite Daily. Remember, he sold it, made a lot of money, and we had another person that did the same thing. Is that an objective as well, to sell this site and make a lot of money and maybe pursue something else entrepreneurial?
Right now, that is not the goal. Like right now, the objective is to make Babe as big as it can get, and we are on a really great path to do that.
What if somebody said, I will partner with you? Cal, I'll take 49% of your company and we can make it bigger than the Huffington Post.
They would have to make a really good argument.
Yeah, because one of the things I noticed when I was reviewing your site is that the team is almost, it's the most close-knit team I've seen in a long time. You guys genuinely like each other.
We do.
You were even saying on Friday night you go out and drink together, don't you?
We really, really do. Our team actually pretty much doubled over the last 2 weeks, and even with a small team of 3 to 4 people, we were super, super close, and we just added new members to the team last week. And even if we're growing, like we still have breakfast every morning and talk about story ideas, or we shout across the table to each other. And it is such a collaborative just kind of environment, whether it's about stories or about the future of the company.
Here's a question. Now, when it comes to targeting that demographic, are you going to stay in the 18 to 24-year-old range, or would you rather your audience grow with you? Eventually, you know, you'll hit your 30s and your 40s. Would you think of changing the content, or would you hire younger people in place so that you can continue to reach that demographic?
I think we definitely want to stay in the 18 to 24 demographic. I think as the media landscape changes over the years, we will adapt to it. Like, I obviously don't know what's going to happen, but I think
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
I don't really want to know. But I do think we will always be focused on young women, because I think they need a space out there that they can really, really relate
What do
to.
young women need? Because you mentioned it a lot on the website.
So basically, what I think other sites do wrong, like I said, is they don't get their readers, whereas like we get them. We don't feed them any
you are one
bullshit.
of them.
Exactly. That's why, like, all the writers and all the editors in the office, like, they get them. Whereas, like, we don't feed them watered down content. We don't kind of tell them this is what you should be doing. It's kind of like talking to your friends. And that's what we always say. We know our readers like we know our friends, because they are our friends.
Wow.
So last question, if you had advice for someone who was starting a media site, you know, right now people are like, oh my God, you're never going to make it.
Yep.
You actually did it. What's your advice for others?
It's a lot of hard work, and you just learn as you go. There will be ups and downs, but you just have to keep going for it. And I think one of the most important things is don't try and guess what other people want to see. Like, you kind of have to go to them and just kind of like really, really know them and relate to them.
Absolutely.
Well,
And congratulations on your success, Eleni.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eleni. Next, we have our Bookster segment. Bookster is a website for book lovers and much more. Sarah Hill, the founder of Bookster, is here with Maureen Sherry. She's the author of Opening Belle, a Wall Street comedy set during the financial crisis. And Maureen's book is currently being turned into a movie that will feature superstar Reese Witherspoon. Sarah, Maureen, nice to see you both.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Absolutely. So how's that movie coming out?
So an exciting thing happened, which is that often when an author sells a book, rights, they go away silently into the deep and dark
Taking
night.
your work and you're done.
And so what's been so amazing is this group is really including me, and I'm going around with the screenwriter, and we are rewriting things and visiting on trading floors and really getting a sense of it, because we feel it's so important to get the story right.
And you guys are doing, you were telling me a little bit that you guys are doing interviews. You're doing like interviewing tech startup founders and all kinds of people to help.
There's a character in the story who works at a startup, and so that's sort of opposed with these women who work in the trading environment, in sales and trading. And so because we wanted it to feel very real, and because I left the business a while ago, we have been talking to younger women, mostly like in their 30s, especially women who are balancing families and work, and talking about their frustrations and seeing if anything has changed.
Isn't that the meat and potatoes of the story? Sorry, Selena.
The meat and potatoes. The kale of the story.
That is also, so like the premise of the book really tackles sexism on Wall Street, and it really stems from a lot of your own experiences. Can you talk more about that and what it's like playing in an all-boys club?
So my frustration was not that I worked with a lot of men, and it was a bit about the all boys thing, but what was really the deep frustration was how many women, really talented women, we would hire who would leave over a very short period of time, say 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So there was this great rotation, and yet everybody was shrugging and saying, well, we don't know why they're leaving, or they're going home to be with their families, and often that wasn't the case. I wanted to just tell the story from a woman's perspective, especially for someone who had not signed a non-disclosure agreement, which many of the women who leave do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started reading the book because I was really excited when it came out last year, but B, because I was really excited to talk to you. And within the first chapter, you like get into it. You're like getting into like who the people are and who the players are and how it's kind of like a jungle out in there. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like,
well, and if you've seen the
so
movie
real.
The Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
which is like highly exaggerated, again, it isn't from a woman's perspective at all. And so it was very almost fun and therapeutic for me and some of the women that I worked with, who we jokingly called ourselves the Glass Ceiling Club. Myself and the Glass Ceiling Club went back and we went through a couple of scenarios again, and a lot of these are going to be able to be seen on the screen.
But you were the youngest, what was it, director?
I was a managing director, at a fairly young age. But a lot of it was timing. It was it was good timing, and it was also, I worked with a group that it was really quite a meritocracy if you could shut out the noise around you.
Oh, wow. So you talked about some of the scenarios that you and the other women in the firm sort of went through, and that's why you labeled it like the Glass Ceiling Club. Can you give examples of some scenarios or sexist interactions that you may have had that you then translated into the book?
Yeah, I mean, there's many things we talk about today, such as getting something mansplained to you in a meeting, right? Or man-interruptions or something. Yeah, and I just love
I'm going to be quiet here right now.
And it's so funny that we're still talking about these things, 10 years later, and it's so pertinent. And so, there's many examples of also just outrageous behavior, and I'll let you read about that in the book. And so, and what women do to the women who were most successful were just able to ignore that, but how over time it does wear you down.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And I think that there wasn't even language 10 years ago, like mansplaining and manspreading. That's something that I think the feminist movement, we sort of like came up with in the last 5 years. How did you deal with that 10 years ago when it was pretty much the norm?
It's also, I have 4 children, and so I would see a lot of similar behaviors where I have 2 boys and 2 girls, the boys constantly interrupting the girls, and I don't think it means that they're bad people. It's just like it's sort of innate to them. And so how do you deal with that? So one thing that I did is use a lot of humor, not just in the book, but also like in my real life, because, if you address a guy and say, oh, thanks for that mansplanation, guess what? They laugh. The whole thing is they're more aware of it. And so I found little techniques like that helped me very much in my own career, and hopefully people can pick up things like that up from the movie too.
Yeah, I man-checked a lot of the men in my life too. By saying that as well is very important.
My poor investors, they're like always getting a lesson.
Yeah.
So we have a couple questions from the audience. Did you get negative repercussions for writing so much truth about your old job? And do you think it's easier to be a high-ranking businesswoman now than it was 10 years ago?
So I have gotten almost no negative repercussions about it, as so many people. And what shocked me is it isn't just feedback from people in the financial industry, but from other industries. Oh, I work in education. Oh, I work as a researcher. Oh, I work in the post office. And this has been my experience too. And that made me feel really good to just to say that maybe this isn't just a one particular industry phenomena. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Do you think it's easier to be a high-ranking businesswoman now than it was 10 years ago?
So I think that high-ranking businesswomen now feel a great need to feel perfect. And so I feel like they're so concerned about the way they speak, about who they, how they run a meeting and things like that. And so I think it's actually more difficult now. I knew some women who had some more quirky behaviors who were high-ranking in the past, and I feel now that behavior, or their way that they even hold themselves, has been changed to a more high level of perfection that I don't see men having the same sort of level of intensity.
You talk quite a bit about how in the book, and I guess in your personal life, you had kids and you were doing this, and how that's kind of a hard balancing act. Or how like in your professional life you kind of had to hit it, or you felt like ashamed of it or something. What's your advice on how to handle that? And do you think that women going forward can not have it all, but like there's a way to do it, or what's your advice?
So I think the word balance that we all use, a lot of working moms really resent because they never feel balanced at all. They always feel like they're sort of, addressing one thing at a time. from my own standpoint, I felt like I was much more focused once I had started to have children. And so, I get to work and you knew you had a certain amount of hours to get it all done. And so a lot of the distraction goes away for you. So I actually feel that working moms are pretty powerful employees. And so as far as advice goes, I think sometimes I talk to women's groups and younger women I feel are doing a great deal of planning, saying like, okay, so if I'm at a vice president level, then I think I can have my first child. And I guess I have a more go with the flow attitude where life just happens for us and that things work out and that the women who are really, who really kind of want to do well in both motherhood and their job, I find really, really are able to do it by just, using their natural born talents and not feeling like there's some textbook that they can learn from where it's going to be perfect for them.
That's a great answer.
Now, Maureen, I have a question for you. How did you react when you found out Reese Witherspoon wanted to turn your book into a movie and star in it? What was your reaction?
That's exactly what I did.
Seriously.
I'm a huge fan.
I actually remember the moment. I was on a ski lift. It was spring break. I'd taken my kids skiing. We're on a chairlift, and you're not supposed to pull out your phone on a chairlift, but I did, and it was really, really exciting. And what I'm even more excited about is a woman that she's done a lot of really crazy, wonderful things, Big Little Lies and Wild, and they've produced these things together. They really care about women's message being both strong and authentic. So I'm hoping to do the same in this film.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm actually gonna go to the movies to see that. That's a rare occasion in my life, Maureen.
I'll buy a ticket as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Sarah, always a pleasure to have you. Maureen, thank you
you
so much. We look forward to the movie.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Nick Holeman here from Betterment, the largest online investment advisor in the United States. Nick is a certified financial planner who's passionate about investing, saving for retirement, and personally helping customers reach their financial goals. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you here. So you're really interested in other people's reaching their financial goals. Tell us about what you do to implement that.
Yeah, it's funny. I get to ask all of the questions that when you're growing up, you're told not to ask, like how much do you make? What are you investing in? Things like that. But it's really exciting. It's really fun to be able to reach so many people. Betterment we manage over $10 billion for over 270,000 customers now. So that's just a great feeling to be able to help that many people achieve all of their financial goals.
So how'd you get into this line of business? You were, I imagine, going to work for a traditional establishment in this space, correct?
Yeah, growing up, I was always interested in money. But before Betterment, I worked for a traditional advisor where all of our clients were probably 60 to 70 years old.
Super exciting, right?
Yeah, especially for someone my age, right? No, I don't regret it because I learned so much valuable stuff from that job that I probably wouldn't have gotten hired at Betterment without. But it's been so exciting. I've been at Betterment about 1.5 years now. And even from that time period, when I got hired, we were managing $3 billion. And now we're managing over 10. So we've more than tripled in
Is that to your credit?
No.
I'm about to say, that's pretty impressive.
We've got a great team behind us. We have 200 employees, and we couldn't do it without all of us working.
Yeah, tell us about Betterment for people who don't know.
Yeah, so we're an online financial advisor, and basically what that means is we're a smarter way for you to invest your money. And we take all of these strategies that if you've had a traditional advisor before, or even if you're managing your own money, that you've probably heard of or at least been trying to implement on your own. Things like rebalancing or tax loss harvesting or retirement planning. And we're able to just use technology to make it a lot more efficient and do so at a much lower cost than traditional advisors can charge.
That's awesome. So tell us about the pay model and how you guys are incentivized to help people make a lot of money.
Yeah, it's the way that financial advisors have been paid in the past is coming under a lot of scrutiny nowadays, and for good reason, to be honest. The way that Betterment works is we're called a flat fee fiduciary. So regardless of how much money that you have with us, we charge you 0.25% per year. That's it. And you could have $10 with us or $1 million with us. And internally, like me, I'm a salaried only financial advisor. We don't have our own products. We don't take commissions. So I'm really not incentivized to give you any particular type of advice, just to help you achieve your goals, really whatever they are.
As a regular financial advisor, you go to them, and especially if they're not your fiduciary, they're going to steer you towards products where they make more commission, correct?
Yeah, and not to say that all financial advisors are bad, but the way that you get paid, even subconsciously, has a huge impact on the types of advice that you give. So if you work for an insurance company, I'm sure you can find a problem that every client has that can be solved with an insurance product, for example. And that's just the way that it is. So being an advisor for a company like Betterment, where there's really no conflicts of interest, it's freeing and enlightening.
Now, the platform mainly resides online, right? Can people also meet with people like you face to face?
Yeah, so the great part about technology is our ability to scale. So most of our advice is through our online platform or our mobile platform. But it's funny, when you hear the term robo-advisor, people think there's this black box of some artificial
So you're actually you're the human behind this.
Yeah, there's humans behind the robo-advice that we give. You can call in. We have a customer support team. We also have a licensed financial advisor team that I work on.
Do you guys FaceTime at all? Do Google Hangouts?
No video chat yet, but it's something that we've looked into.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Actually, recently we just launched this really amazing service where from your mobile phone, you can text in and ask us questions and interact directly with our financial advisor team. So there's a lot of our customers that their main form of interaction with Betterment is on their phone, as I'm sure all of you guys are aware with everything nowadays. And so offering advice through messaging has been an amazing way to reach even more people and give them better advice.
Yeah.
So what do you say for people getting started in this industry? Because it seems like you identified at a very young age, I would like to manage money. I want to do something with money. So for that 17-year-old out there, or 18-year-old, someone in college who wants to get into this industry, what's the difference? What's the difference between working for someone like this, working for someone traditional? How different are the professional paths?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paths. You can, if you say finance, right, you can go corporate finance, you can go personal finance, which is the route that I went. Really, I think the best thing that I did when I was getting started in finance was take a lot of internships in college. So I worked for different types of financial advisors, different industries, and I was able to find what I liked and what I didn't like, really. And I was able to get licensed while I was still in school because the companies that I worked for were great and they sponsored me.
Didn't you have to take a bunch of tests, right? To get your CFP, right?
Yeah, to take to become a certified financial planner. I used to have my insurance license, my brokerage licenses as well. It's been a lot of testing. I'm a self-proclaimed financial nerd, so I don't really mind it, but you got to be ready to put in the time and study.
Now, here's an interesting question. Is Betterment managing your personal finances?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Because you go to restaurants.
You thought you bust him?
No, you go to restaurants and people are like, I don't eat here, or no, I don't use the product. There's a lot of people that don't use the product that they work for, the company that they work for. But so tell us how it's been for you personally.
Yeah, I actually opened up my Betterment account as a customer before I worked there. It was kind of my way of testing them out. And then I interviewed, came on board, and moved everything over there, except for like my bank accounts, which we don't do. But yeah, almost all of my money is managed at Betterment. And it's funny because there's actually been studies where if you look at hedge fund managers or mutual fund managers, the performance is directly connected to how much of the head manager's money they actually put in their own fund.
Oh.
So that is a good, I guess, a red flag to look at if your advisor doesn't follow their own advice.
But how do we get that information? That information
that's
isn't
a little
easily
bit-
Just
accessible.
ask.
I've pulled up a lot of my friends and family will just ask me for financial advice on the weekend. And a lot of the time, just to show off how amazing Betterment's interface is, I'll pull up my account. I'm not ashamed to have my own personal finances, but I'll pull up my account and walk them through everything. And it really is, I can talk about it all day long, but once you see it in action, it's so easy and it's so intuitive and it's so customer focused. And I think that's part of the reason why, even though there's so many robo-advisors joining the industry now, that's why we are the largest independent advisor and why we're growing so quickly and why we've seen so much success.
So how do we save for retirement? How do we do it? What's your advice?
I would say the biggest thing for retirement in terms of getting started or long-term planning is to start good habits and come up with a plan first. So we have a tool called Retire Guide. Here's a little plug, but it answers all of the questions that most people have. One of the biggest questions that we get asked is, should I use a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, or a traditional 401k or a Roth 401k? I can't tell you how many times I've answered that question. So we built a tool that you input a little bit of your information, like what your salary is now, what your living expenses you think will be in retirement, and then we'll tell you not only how much you need to save, but help you prioritize which accounts you should be saving in first.
Oh, wow. That is really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that great advice with us.
Thank you.
Our next guest purchased an established restaurant called Davio's in Boston's Back Bay at the young age of 24. He was younger than us,
Oh,
Selena.
wow. Look at that.
And has since opened several other popular restaurants, including many other Davio's locations in Boston and around the country. Steve has been inducted into the Massachusetts Restaurant Hall of Fame and is the author of the book, It's All About the Guests, Exceeding Expectations in the Business, in Life, the Davio's Way. Steve DiFillippo, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. This is really cool.
I feel like I've seen your restaurant. I used to live in Boston. I've never eaten there, but I've seen it, yes.
So I've been around for 32 years, and you haven't been to Davio's?
No, I have not.
Okay,
No.
well, okay.
We need to change that.
It's not a good start here
needs to
today.
change.
Gosh, now we know your age now. Just a little bit of math, and we figured it out.
Yeah, it's not too difficult, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that. You started your first establishment at 24 years old, and it was super successful. How did you do that?
Well, it was a really small restaurant at the time. We had 15 people in our company. I was the chef, the general manager. I went to Boston University, then I went to a chef school. So, it wasn't like now where we have 10 restaurants, we have 1,000 people in the company. It was really small and manageable. And, I learned a lot at the beginning, and I was on Newbury Street, which is the fashionable street of Boston.
I lived right by there.
Wow.
I loved it. I lived right at the end of Newbury Street.
Yeah. So, it was just a great place to start because there was a lot of guests on the street, and it was just a great location, and we did really well. And then from there we grew, and we started doing other cities, and now we're here in Manhattan, we're in Atlanta, we have 2 in Pennsylvania, California. I mean, we're all over the place, and it all started there in Boston.
Wow.
And I'm really proud. We have, like I said, about 1,000 people now in the company, and we still have 5 of the original 15 people in our company.
That's great retention.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that, and it's all about our people. I wrote a book called It's All About the Guest, and what I feel is if you treat the people who come through that back door as well as the people who come through that front door, you're going to do really well. And I think our company is employee driven. In fact, we don't even call them employees. We call them inner guests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think who wants to be an employee? Wouldn't you rather be an inner guest?
I would absolutely would like to be referenced like
we
that.
didn't wait for a president or a governor to have health insurance. We've had health insurance for 32 years. We have guys have vacations. We have amazing meals.
But you have a lot of employee loyalty.
Yeah, well, in our business, you have to, because I think, when you go to a restaurant and you can tell right away that they're not happy, right? You go to the front door and the host doesn't even look at you, and then you get to the bar and you can't even get a drink. The bartender doesn't even give you time. They're talking to the server and doesn't even care you're there. Then you look out the window and you see the chef smoking by the dumpster, right? I mean,
Sounds like 80% of restaurants.
Well, you wonder, what is going on here? Where's the manager? Where's the owner? Well, you know what? I don't have an office. You might think I go to an office every day, right? Guess where my office is? It's in the restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really, I don't have a desk. I don't, I have a bag I carry my stuff around with, and I think that's the key is if you're a restaurateur, get out of the office and get in your restaurants because I'm tired of going to restaurants and I don't know where the owners are, I don't know where the managers are, and that's the difference between us and I think other places.
It sounds like you love being there. Everyone loves working for you.
I'm just kidding.
How are you trim?
I run 7 miles every morning.
That ought to put a dent in it.
It's really not about exercise, even though I do it because I have to, but it's about eating. You have to watch what you're eating. It's 80% is eating, I think.
So tell us about Davio's. It's a Northern Italian-inspired steakhouse.
So we're Northern Italian, so our soul is Italian. I'm half Italian, half Portuguese. I always have to get my mom's Portuguese in there because everyone's, DiFillippo.
They have great food, too.
They all think I'm Italian, but my mom really taught me how to cook. My Portuguese grandmother taught me how to make Italian because my Italian grandmother taught my mom all the DiFillippo specialties.
Oh, wow.
So after I learned growing up, how to cook with my mom, and then I went to a chef school. But we're in a Northern Italian, so we do steak really well too. So we have Brant meat from California. Our steak is, no antibiotics. They're vegetarian cows. They're actually amazing. Our steak. So we have an amazing steak section and we have an amazing Italian section. So we're kind of a hybrid. We're 2 restaurants in one. And I think, and also fish. Being from Boston, we have the best fish, in my opinion, in the country. George's Bank fish, and we use Foley daily fish, and we fly it all over the country, wherever all our restaurants, and so we have great fish, great steak, and pasta. We make everything to order. We make all our pasta right there on the premises, all our desserts. We're a scratch kitchen, 100%.
Wow, I'm getting hungry just listening. Seriously, I'm like, where are you located in Manhattan? I need to stop there.
But also, we sell products in stores. We have our Davio's brand that we're in over 5,000 stores, supermarkets, and hotels and restaurants. We sell products everywhere. And in fact, I go on QVC. I hope that's okay to mention QVC.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I'll be on tomorrow. So I'm on QVC like at least once or twice a week selling the products. And so it's really been good for the brand because, and also the book and the products and the restaurant. So I'm all over the place. And I think that's what's good about a restaurant. You want to be diverse. You want to do other things. You want to do catering. You want to come up with a product. Go sell it at a farm stand. There's really good to kind of spread out, not just sit back and wait for the phone to ring. You really got to be out there in the community. Very important.
What's the meat and potatoes of your book? It's all about the guest.
Well, I talk about my passion, and I talk about I tell stories. I'm a storyteller, and it's a fun book, and I really kind of tell you kind of how I got where I got here. I wrote the book a few years ago, so I think the company was about 30 years at the time, and I tell the story about the products, and I tell how I went from 15 people to 1,000 people, and I tell you all the tricks, and I also have a failure chapter. I tell you about all the things I did wrong, because
people tend to glaze over that.
Well, I think you learn more from your failures than you do your successes, because a lot of the success I've had, I don't know how it happened. I'm lucky, but I always like to do the quote from Thomas Jefferson, our third president, like, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And yeah, I'm lucky, but I work really hard, and I think sometimes you can't forget about that. If you really work hard, luck's gonna come.
Right.
It really does.
And so in 30 seconds or less, what advice would you just give in a nutshell to anyone thinking about opening up a restaurant?
I would raise as much money as you possibly can.
It takes a lot of money.
Yeah, no, because how many times you go to a restaurant and it's just packed, right? It's for a few months and then they're gone. Because they don't have enough money. It's very expensive. Your ice machine goes down $1,000. Your air conditioning goes down $2,000.
Steve, did you see that app that they hire people to fill up restaurants now? Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen
I was reading about that this weekend. I can't remember, but yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe I should hire you since you've never been to Davio's. David, I'm a little upset about that. Celine, you
I'm coming.
I'm a steak person, and I am half Italian, so I'm very interested.
We're right over on between 44 and 45 across from Grand Central, so hopefully you'll come over and see us here in New York.
I'm actually in that area.
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
She's gonna be circling like a vulture. She's ready.
See you soon. I'm gonna watch me.
Okay, definitely do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Lastly, we'd like to welcome Raymond Archie to the show. He's the executive director at Notes to the Soul, a nonprofit organization with the vision to inspire global social change through music education, collaboration, and cultural exchange. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So Notes to the Soul, that is a very interesting name. Tell us about this organization.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's been a really interesting journey. We actually started with a series of educational workshops for kids ages 9 through 17, and where I brought in Grammy award-winning musicians and producers to work hands-on with kids. And that was called Music is My First Language. And recently we started a workshop series focused more on 20 and up, and really focusing on music career development. And that's called Music Makers. So the Music Makers thesis is we go to school to learn a skill, but we're not taught the business or how to make a career out of that skill.
Now, Raymond, why is it so important for us to educate children about music? I mean, it's one of the first things that gets cut from public school education.
Exactly. And if you think about just the arts in general, this is kind of one of the first ways that we learn how to communicate with people, right? Also, we have opportunities to learn how to work in a team. Teamwork is a really big thing with music. Can you imagine music done in a vacuum just by yourself, right? Just like a movie or television, the music that we hear, there are hundreds of people involved with creating that final product that we finally listen to. So, yes.
We were in the Uber yesterday going to see the solar eclipse, and we were talking about this. I was telling my friends how I have a bunch of very talented musicians who don't know how to make money off of it.
Yes.
Is that that's what you're trying to do?
Exactly. So we actually had a wonderful 3-day workshop this past week, Thursday through Saturday. We're at the Shapeshifter Lab in the Gowanus in Brooklyn. And first day, we focused on story. So who or what.
That's what we do. That's like every good workshop focuses on story first.
There's got to be
Absolutely.
story.
You got to
right?
tell
This
your
is-
story. Yeah,
Exactly.
of course. Yeah.
And a lot of times with musicians, we don't really understand why people are attracted to our art. It's a little bit distant to us. And by understanding what that is, it's almost like creating a mission statement or vision statement for a business. And that's the beginning of your marketing plan and how we interact with people.
So for all inspiring artists who may be dismayed by the music landscape, they may think it's oversaturated or there is a struggle to really monetize that type of art in today's time, what advice do you give them or share with them?
Sure. I think it's about being free and really improvising around understanding where that revenue is going to come from. We're not going to all be Beyonce, right?
Unfortunately.
But there are, well, that's also probably a very difficult and stressful position. I mean, recently
they're well
lost,
compensated for it.
Yeah.
No one pities Beyonce.
You know, we've lost a lot of artists recently because around this stress.
It's tough to be up there. It's a tough place to be.
But you can make upper 5 figures and 6 figures and be happy.
That's encouraging.
Exactly.
So you can make you can make a wage that sustains, a upper middle class lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And what's interesting, actually, through our workshop, we looked at how can you make $40K just within your local market, right?
So not going anywhere, not changing anything.
Exactly.
Is this on the side as a primary gig?
As a primary gig, right?
Okay.
So outside of market, you can probably double that. So I'm really blessed to actually be able to have a bunch of music industry folks that are coming around this concept, helping us develop strategies, real strategies that will create results for musicians.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage a lot of my musician friends to take this class because, a lot of times, like we as creatives, we focus so much on creating the art that we forget about the business model and sustainability when it comes to, just making a living wage.
That's right. That's right. And I don't think there's a lot of fear around that with artists. And when I say artists, I mean all creative people. There's a lot of fear around the business of what we do. And I think a lot of people think that it might diminish our art itself. But 0% of zero, or 100% of zero doesn't really serve us or serve our art.
So let's talk about your journey, Ray. What do you play? What's your musical talent?
Cello, bass, piano. I also produce and engineer, and I am a techie geek.
So you have a lot of skills. So it's not just necessarily playing a musical instrument. It's kind of skill spread around the industry. That's how you've been able to make a living wage. Yes.
Exactly. I've been lucky. I've had a technology career. I worked in the media for 20 years. In the last 10 years, I was at CBS as the director of streaming operations. And although I was working within media and very close to audio, I still had this burning to go back into music. So about 18 months ago, I doubled down on music and just committed, made that career change. And I'm 100% music now.
Now, before you jumped in 100%, what was that planning process like, and how long was it?
That transition.
A big transition.
A big transition.
Falling off the cliff?
Yes, yes. Actually, I started the nonprofit in 2013, and that's when we started Music as My First Language, the program for the kids. From there, we came up with the idea I came up with this idea that, that was a very good question, so I have to, got me thinking.
Use those storytelling skills.
Yes.
Take your time.
Yes. So, from doing Music as My First Language, I started to realize the teachers that we're bringing in were also looking for work, right? They weren't necessarily at the point in their career that they wanted to be. And part of the problem also was collaborating across many, thousands of miles, collaborating with musicians that might be in other countries that they were about to go and do a tour within or what have you. From there, I launched MixLuv, which is an online music collaboration platform. So that allows musicians from all over the world to asynchronously create music together. We kickstarted 52K. I did a matching with that, and we built that platform. So that platform became live in 2015, end of 2015. And after about a year with our beta of that platform, we realized that this streamlined workflow for musicians, although it's incredibly beneficial, I'm constantly working. I'm working on a project with a friend right now in California. I'm working with someone else that's overseas. It's a streamlined workflow, but it's not dealing with that bottom line, which is the career, which is the financial challenge.
You got to
important part.
inspire financial sustainability for everyone in your community.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So if anything, Music Makers was, let's do this in the real world, and we'll figure out how to productize or put that into the platform as we move forward. But the biggest power or the biggest focus being immediately on community.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, as well as that great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Bold Business. Be sure to catch our friends on Bold TV Friday at 10 a.m. And we'll be back next week with a new action-packed lineup of guests. Have a great week.
Bye.